Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to embark on, well, a bit of a detective mission, really.
Sounds intriguing.
Yeah, our goal is to kind of filter through all the buzz and piece together the earliest clues about an unreleased, highly anticipated piece of tech,
And that would be?
the Samsung Galaxy S27 Ultra.
Ah, okay. The big one.
Exactly. So we're pulling from excerpts of My Fusion Mobile, and it offers like a sneak peek into this device.
Right, way before Samsung has officially said a word.
Way before. And given it's unannounced and just says coming soon, every detail we're about to discuss is, speculative by nature.
Mm-hmm.
But that's actually what makes this deep dive so compelling, I think. We're piecing together the puzzle early.
And finding some pieces don't quite fit, maybe.
You got it. Some pieces definitely don't seem to fit.
And that's where we come in. Our mission today is basically to help you, the listener, figure out what's important here.
Yeah, what to pay attention to.
Right, and what might raise a few eyebrows, maybe.
Yeah.
And what could genuinely, reshape the mobile landscape down the line.
So think of this as your shortcut.
Exactly. A
Yeah.
shortcut to understanding the potential future of smartphones.
Hmm.
And we'll be highlighting not just the potential facts, but, yeah, those fascinating contradictions within these early leaks.
Okay, let's jump right in then. First up, the fundamentals, status, and the question everyone always asks first, price.
Always the price.
So the source, My Fusion Mobile, it's clear. The Samsung Galaxy S27 Ultra is not announced yet, explicitly coming soon.
So firmly in rumor territory. Predictions.
Totally. And as for that price, the estimated figure for the U.S. market is around $1,500.
$1,500. Okay.
Now, it's really, really critical to remember this isn't official, not at all. It's just an estimation.
Right. Samsung hasn't announced anything themselves.
No.
Well, what's really interesting here is how these early price estimates even, come about.
Mm.
They often serve as a ballpark figure, But the official details, they can vary. They often do.
Yeah, especially with different versions.
Exactly. The source itself mentions the history of different variants for previous models. So this raises a question, doesn't it?
Like, is that $1,500 for the basic one?
Or is it fully loaded?
Yeah.
And how reliable can any initial estimate be, really, when a company like Samsung is known for releasing multiple configurations?
Or even regional pricing differences.
Precisely. So it's a good reminder for everyone listening. These numbers, they're a starting point for speculation, not a final quote.
That's a really good point. It makes you wonder just how many versions they might be planning this time.
Mm.
But okay, moving on to something maybe a bit more tangible, or at least, rumored to be. Let's talk first impressions. Design, durability.
The look and feel.
Yeah, and some distinctive touches. So the source gives us rumored dimensions, 163.6 by 75.5 by 8 millimeters, and a weight of 192 grams.
Okay, so fairly standard size for a large phone, maybe a bit lighter than some previous Ultras.
Could be. As for the build, it suggests a glass front, a plastic frame, and a plastic back.
Plastic frame and back on an Ultra. That's interesting. Usually they go more premium.
Well, yeah, but here's where it sounds quite promising on the durability side. It's rumored to feature IPX8 water resistance.
Okay, that's good. Up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes usually.
Right. And plus, it's said to have an armor aluminum frame with tougher drop and scratch resistance. And the source explicitly says that's advertised.
Advertise. Okay, so that suggests it's a key selling point they might push.
Seems like it. A real focus on robustness. Oh, and yeah, stylus support is mentioned.
Of course, it's an Ultra. Got to have the S Pen support or equivalent.
True. Now, for colors, I've got quite a palette here. Phantom black, green, cream, lavender,
Usual suspects.
graphite, sky blue, lime, red. And then this one is genuinely a head-turner, a particularly surprising BMW M edition.
Oh, okay. A car tie-in. That's bold.
Isn't it?
So what's fascinating about these design choices, especially the durability features, is what they might signal for you, the user.
Right.
That advertised tougher frame, it directly addresses that growing demand for more robust phones because, let's be honest,
Accidents happen. Phones get dropped.
all the time. And the stylus support, well, that immediately suggests Samsung is still aiming hard at the productivity-focused user. The Note legacy lives on.
Makes sense.
That BMW M edition, that's a clever marketing play, isn't it?
Seems like it.
It hints at Samsung's strategy, not just broad appeal, but also tapping into niche luxury markets. It certainly makes you wonder who exactly that edition is targeted at.
It really does. It feels like
Yeah.
they're trying to capture a lot of different segments. Okay, now let's pivot to the display details, because this is where we hit our first real head scratcher in the source material.
Uh-oh. Okay, what is it?
So the initial overview in my Fusion Mobile, it lists the display as 6.6 inches with 1080 by 2400 pixels.
6.6 inches, full HD plus LR. Seems reasonable. Maybe a slight step down in resolution from previous Ultras, but okay.
Right. Seems straightforward.
Yeah.
But if you dig a little deeper into the detailed specs, like on the same page,
Yeah.
the source later describes the display as an IPS LCD capacitive touchscreen.
IPS LCD, not AMOLED, on an Ultra.
I know. And it says it measures 6.7 inches with a resolution of 1080 by 200 and 388 pixels.
Hold on. So it's a different size, different resolution slightly, and a completely different panel technology.
Yep, total contradiction.
Wow. Okay, this raises an important question then. Not just about the precise tech and size, but about the reliability of this early info itself.
Definitely.
We have a clear clash between the summary and the details. And AMOLED versus IPS LCD. That's a huge difference for your user experience.
Huge. Colors, contrast, battery use.
Exactly. AMOLED generally gives you those deep blacks, better contrast, maybe better power efficiency with dark themes. IPS LCDs are usually good for color accuracy, viewing angles, but often seen as less premium.
Especially for a flagship Ultra model.
Right. So is the 6.6-inch spec, maybe with AMOLED implied, the aspirational goal, or is the 6.7-inch IPS LCD maybe a more realistic early prototype spec? Or maybe
An error in the source?
could be an error, or it might even hint at different regional versions, perhaps a premium AMOLED for some markets, IPS LCD for others to hit a price point.
That's possible too.
Or even just an early placeholder before final decisions were made. But these details, they really matter for how you'll interact with the device every day.
Absolutely. It really makes you scrutinize every single detail in these leaks, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Okay, let's talk power and performance now. The brains and the brawn of this thing. The anticipated OS is Android 14.
Okay, expected.
And for the expected brain, the chipset, the source points to a Qualcomm SM8475 Snapdragon 8 plus Gen 1. It's a 4-nanometer chip.
The 8 plus Gen 1. Okay,
Yeah.
so not the absolute latest Gen 2 or 3 by the time the S27 launches. It's still a very powerful chip.
Right. It also mentions an octa-core CPU and Adreno 730 GPU.
Yeah, that chipset is definitely a powerhouse, even if it's a generation or so behind the cutting edge when the phone actually ships. That 4-nanometer process, for instance, means pretty great efficiency.
Better battery life, less heat.
Exactly. Better battery life, less heat, especially when you're pushing the phone hard with, like, demanding games or complex apps.
So it should feel fast.
Oh, yeah. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it signals a device designed for high-end performance. It's what you'd expect from an Ultra designation, really. Smooth multitasking, fast app launches, all that.
That makes perfect sense for an Ultra phone, but guess what?
Another contradiction.
Another fascinating contradiction here, and it's in a really critical area, RAM.
Okay, play on me.
The initial overview states 12 GB RAM.
12 gigs. Sounds right for an Ultra. High-end.
Right, but then the detailed memory section lists 8 GB RAM.
8? Okay, that's a significant difference.
Yeah, along with 128 GB or 256 GB internal storage options, and notably, no card slot mention.
No card slot is pretty standard for Samsung flagships now, sadly. But that RAM discrepancy. Yeah, unpacking that, it's actually very common for early leaks to show variations like this.
So maybe different models again?
Probably. Sometimes the 12 GB could be for, like, a premium SKU, maybe with more storage, while 8 GB is the base model.
For global versus regional.
For that,
Yeah.
The source even kind of speculates, referencing previous Samsung models, that 8 GB and 12 GB RAM were common, sometimes with even higher storage options up to 1 TB.
Right.
So for you, the listener, why this matters? How much RAM your device has directly impacts its ability to handle multiple apps simultaneously.
Keep things running in the background without closing them.
Exactly. And the overall responsiveness. So this isn't just a number. It's really about your day-to-day multitasking experience. Big difference between 8 and 12.
Yeah, it's those little details that really add up. Okay, shifting focus now to what's arguably one of the most important features for many users, the cameras.
Definitely a key selling point.
So the main camera system is outlined as a triple camera setup. A 50 megapixel main and then a 2 megapixel. Something else. It just says 2 MP.
Just 2 MB. That sounds low for a secondary or tertiary lens on an Ultra. Usually you'd see telephoto ultra wide. Maybe that's incomplete info.
Could be. It also mentions LED flash, obviously.
Right.
Now for video, the capabilities sound quite impressive. 8K at 24 frames per second.
8K video. Still pushing that boundary.
Then 4K at 30 or 60 frames per
Well,
second.
4K60 is solid. That's become pretty standard for flagships.
And as for the selfie camera, it's listed as a single 8MP.
8 megapixels on the front. Again, seems a little low for an Ultra these days, doesn't it?
Maybe. It does mention dual LED flash for the selfie cam, though, which is interesting. And video capabilities are 4K at 30 fps and 1080p at 30 fps, plus gyro EIS for stabilization.
Okay, gyro ES is good. That's electronic image stabilization using the phone's motion sensors. It helps smooth out shaky hands in videos.
Right.
But yeah, that inclusion of 8K video, it's definitely pushing boundaries for, like, mobile content creation.
But how practical is it?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? It raises issues for users about storage consumption. 8K files are absolutely massive.
Yeah, it fills up your phone fast, especially with no card slot.
Exactly. And how many people truly leverage that capability right now? Most viewing platforms, most screens people own, they aren't 8K.
Wait.
Still, the camera specs overall, especially if that 50MP main sensor is good, and you have various video modes, it positions this phone for users who are really into high-quality photos and videos.
Like using their smartphone as our main camera.
Precisely. Suggests it could be a strong contender for that crowd. But those secondary camera specs, the 2MP and the 8MP selfie, they feel a bit questionable for an Ultra. We'll have to see.
Yeah, definitely need more clarity there. Okay, let's talk connectivity and features now. How this device plans on, staying connected and smart.
All the radios and sensors.
Exactly. It supports standard SIM and dual SIM models, covers 2G, 3G, 4G, and comprehensive 5G networks, including M-Wave USA.
Millimeter wave. That's important for the US market, for those super fast but short-range 5G speeds.
Right. For those not familiar, millimeter wave is that a blazing fast 5G you might find in like dense urban areas or stadiums. Quite different from the broader, maybe slightly slower sub-6 gigahertz 5G most people experience more often. Speeds mentioned are things like HFPA 42.25.76 Mbps, LTEA, and of course 5G.
Standard stuff there.
For other connectivity, it lists Wi-Fi, 802.11 ABNYK, so Wi-Fi 5, not Wi-Fi 6 or 6E mentioned yet.
Wi-Fi 5. That would be a bit dated for a flagship launching potentially in 2025. Might be another placeholder or error.
Could be. Also Bluetooth 5.1, GPS with AGPS, GLONASS, Galileo, BDS, SOCA satellite support.
And NFC.
NFC for payments and pairing.
Check. Interestingly, no mention of FM radio or an infrared port.
FM radio is pretty rare now. IR Blaster, some people miss it for controlling TVs, but also not common on Samsung flagships anymore.
Yeah, and for sensors, it packs the usual suite you'd expect. An under-display fingerprint reader, described as ultrasonic. Okay, ultrasonic is usually faster and more secure than optical under-display sensors.
Good. Accelerometer, gyro, proximity, compass, and barometer.
Barometer for altitude, helpful for fitness tracking and navigation. Yep, standard flagship loadout.
Plus, USB Type-C 2.0 with USB on the go.
USB 2.0 speed. Again, feels a bit slow for an Ultra. Flagships usually have USB 3.0 or 3.1 for faster data transfer.
Another potential discrepancy or maybe cost saving.
Could be. But overall, it's clear this device aims to offer a pretty complete and modern connectivity experience, despite maybe a couple of slightly older specs listed here.
Yeah, that advanced 5G, especially the mention of milling wave for the US, is definitely crucial for future-proofing and getting those top speeds.
Absolutely. And the sensor suite, the under-display ultrasonic fingerprint reader, that's all exactly what you'd expect from a modern flagship. It provides, robust security and hopefully a seamless user experience.
It's about making sure you're always connected and the phone just works intuitively.
Right. Responds to your every move.
Okay, now let's get to battery life. Powering through the day. This is another fun one.
Oh boy, what inconsistency do we have now?
Well, the initial overview section presents a pretty hefty 5800 mAh LiPo battery.
T800, that's huge. That'd be amazing battery life.
LiPo, okay.
Sounds great, right? But wait, there's yet another slight difference within the source.
Of course there is.
In the detailed battery section, it lists the capacity as 5,000 mAh, and it says Li-on, not LiPo.
5,000. Okay, that's still a large battery, very typical for a Samsung flagship Ultra these days, but yeah, that's a big difference from 5800.
800 mAh difference.
Yeah, that final discrepancy in capacity and even the battery chemistry, LiPo versus Li-on, it's significant.
How significant is the LiPo versus Li-on thing usually?
Well, both are lithium-based, obviously. LiPo, lithium polymer, tends to be lighter, more flexible in shape, which manufacturers like for design. Li-ion, lithium-ion might offer slightly higher energy density for its weight sometimes, and they're generally maybe a bit cheaper to produce.
So less about performance, more about manufacturing and design. Often, yeah. For you, the user, the real impact is often more about how they manage heat, charge cycles over time. But that capacity difference, 800 millihar, that's immediately noticeable.
That could mean several extra hours of use.
Absolutely. Could genuinely mean hours of additional usage for some people. So this type of contradiction again suggests, well, maybe evolving designs, different market versions again, or perhaps just an error in the data they scraped.
Who knows at this stage? It does mention fast charging, though.
Okay, well, that's a clear benefit. Fast charging helps mitigate any battery anxiety, regardless of whether it ends up being 5,000 or 5,800 millihar. You can top it up quickly.
True. It seems like my Fusion Mobile is giving us a real puzzle to solve here.
It really is keeping us on our toes.
Okay, lastly, let's look at their internal ratings rundown. This part is also curious.
Let me guess, more conflicting information.
Sort of. In their Our Rating section, the site's experts uniformly give the device a 9 out of 10 across all categories.
All of them. Design, display, camera.
Yep. Design, display, camera, features, connectivity, usability, performance, and battery. All 9 out of 10.
Wow. Okay, so a glowing, very consistent internal review from their experts. High praise across the board.
Looks like it. However, then we scroll down to the Rate This Product section, which, despite those individual expert category ratings, all being 9s, shows an overall rating of 6 out of 10.
6. Down from 9s everywhere else. How does that work?
It says the 6 out of 10 is based on your selection, whatever that means.
Based on your selection. Okay, this raises an important question, doesn't it? But maybe less about the phone itself and more about how these review scores are presented or even calculated.
Yeah, like what is that 610 representing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This discrepancy between the expert's consistent 910 and this much lower 610 overall rating attributed to your selection is, well, it's fascinating. What does your selection truly mean here?
No idea.
Could it be like an aggregation of early reader polls on their site? Maybe a placeholder value waiting for broader user feedback once the phone is out? Or maybe even just some weird default value in their system?
It's really unclear.
It definitely is. But it reminds us that review scores, especially these pre-release ones, need to be, scrutinized. Look at the methodology.
Yeah, don't just take the number at face value.
Precisely. It's a great lesson in critical thinking for anyone looking at reviews. Always ask who is doing the rating and how was that rating actually compiled.
What an investigative deep dive this turned out to be into the Samsung Galaxy S27 Ultra.
It really did. Lots of threads to pull on.
We've seen these high-level anticipated specs like that 50MP camera, potentially 8K video, advanced 5G, and that focus on a durable build with the Armor aluminum frame.
Some potentially strong points there.
We've also firmly established its upcoming status and that estimated very unofficial $1,500 price point, reminding us all that these early details are very much subject to change.
Hugely subject to change.
Yeah.
And, if we connect all this to the bigger picture, the really fascinating contradictions we uncovered within just this one source.
On the display, tech, and size.
Right. And the RAM capacity, even the battery capacity. It just highlights the dynamic nature of these early leaks.
They're not always straightforward.
Not at all. These discrepancies aren't necessarily like mistakes.
Yeah.
They could be snapshots of different prototypes Samsung is testing. Or maybe planned regional variants. Or simply specifications that are still evolving internally.
Makes sense.
It really underscores the importance for you, the listener, of waiting for the official announcements. And maybe checking multiple sources as news emerges.
Because sometimes you really do have to solve the puzzle yourself from these early clues.
You absolutely do. It's part of the fun of following tech rumors, I guess.
Absolutely. So, thinking about all this, given these early, sometimes conflicting details we've unpacked, what's the one feature you would be most eager to see confirmed or maybe clarified for a device like the Galaxy S27 Ultra, and why?
That's a good closing thought.
Something for you all to ponder. Keep exploring, stay curious, and we'll see what official details actually emerge down the road.